Today we're going to have the opportunity to go over the
Okay,
Bosch
so we tried a few
BOVA.
videos in the lab. Information didn't come across the way we wanted it to, and really the audio was just kind of bad in the lab. It just got worse. So I'm going to go back to a basic slide format for now.
Today we're going to have the opportunity to go over the Bosch BOVA.
If you've done classes with us, you may have already went through Bosch training. I've eliminated many of the sales side of things from my classes and even more in this video, as well as combine quite a few slides, keep the time a little lower. I'm not going to go over nitrogen brazing heavily or pressure testing or triple evac, your basic good practices. I'll mention them in passing, but we'll move quickly past them to get the information specifically for the Bosch out to you. This is our Bosch offering plus EVAPs and gas furnaces. We carry really what the contractor's requests, and we concentrate heavily on the BOVA 20, especially for this training session. We will mention the BVA 20, the gas furnace and EVAP coils as well. A few things to point out here. The SEER is about 20 SEER, HSPF 10.5. The big thing on this is the heating capacity and the different BTUs. It is an inverter, but the BTU output is 100% reliant on the CFM you deliver. A 5-ton with 1550 CFM is only going to be a 4-ton unit. The BVA has high and low fan speed, so the unit looks like a 2-speed unit in the specifications, and any unit you put on it will give you the same result. Bosch tends to concentrate on constant torque motors instead of constant volume, so the BTU will be relying on the total external static pressure and the CFM. We'll look at that in just a bit. This is the BMAC coil. This is the one coil, fits all positions. Standard A, B, C, and D width with two heights, 16 and 27 inches on the 4 and 5 ton. HRI gives it a 16 SEER when rated standalone. You'll get much higher ratings with a ECM motor or constant volume motor delivering the proper CFM efficiently. But if you're going after rebates, non-Bosch indoor product will make standalone be a 16 SEER. Here's the coolant capacity chart for the 36, and those of you who wear the hat of design or manual J, please note the BOVA maintaining a single evap temp across all the CFMs will tend to get a floating sensible heat ratio. Most of the units are going to sit around 0.79 to 0.81 range, and that's going to be true with the 50% RH to 72 degree indoors with the entire range of outdoor temps. But if you're taking the ACA design suggestion, we maintain 75 indoors with 50%. We're going to change just a bit and have a 0.86 HR, slightly lower latent removal. The BTU output relying on the CFM, it's so important that you understand, or at least minimum, check the total external static pressure. Remember, between the unit input and output, so between the blower and the filter for negative and positive air handler output, or on a gas furnace between evap coil and the output. If needed, you can read the output through the limit hole or drill a hole in the upper side of the furnace if you can't get below the evaporation coil. Remember the difference, not adding the two numbers, it's the difference between the two. So negative 0.3 and positive 0.5 is going to be 0.8 total external static pressure. Blow performance of the BGH96 furnace shown for high speed. Cool or Y2 at 0.71, you have 1200 CFM on high. But if you're at a 0.3 total external static pressure, you can have 1350 on high. You need to slow that blower down. Remember, you exceed the CFM on the BTU output increases. When you hit the max BTU output, SHR increases and you get poor latent removal. One more quick thing before we get into specifics. The unit energizes with heat on the B terminal. You'll see this slide a few times. We do not use the O terminal like most of us are used to. The heat will energize with the B. Okay, the Bosch BOVA 2.0. All right, with the 2.0 new version, you get 150 foot max line set when sized correctly. Always a 3/8 liquid line. The 3-ton can run 3/4 or 5/8, and the 5-ton 3/4 7/8. or 1 1/8. If you are reusing a line set and you have 1 1/8, you do have limitations on vertical rise. We do have oil return routines, but the larger line limits what we could do and does not add to the total capacity. All right, unit connections are 3/8 on the liquid line on both units, and the suction is 3/4 and 5/8. Never need a trap for the unit. It will initiate oil return and run the compressor at high frequency to get the velocity and it lines up to get your oil returned. All right, we combine a few slides here. All common sense and all the install manual, not under an eave, clearance, keep above the snow level. And again, I'll say it one more time. If you reuse a line, that's fine. Just make sure you clean them. But remember, 3/8 liquid line only. More combined slides. Remember, good evacuation procedures. The book says 150 psi. On a pressure rating, you can go up to 450, and always, when brazing, remove the Schrader valves to protect the valves. Run dry nitrogen. Charge is preset for the unit plus 15 foot. Any length over 15 feet is 0.6 ounces per foot. All right, BTU by CFM. If you're using an indoor unit with a Y1 and Y2 as well as a W1 and W2, the CFMs can be adjusted for each. And we'll know how much air we move at what speed. The outdoor unit will connect Y1, W1 and the B signal. It will run, and its output is going to be contingent on the CFM moving on the Y1 or Y2 terminal. If you're looking for just an air conditioner, all you need is the Y and C, so you'll be able to remain with the 2 wires going outside. All right, you can force cooling in the high-speed mode, and you can charge using the subcooling. Remember, for subcooling, we're looking for an outdoor temps between 55 and 120. Anything lower, we're going to have to go into the weigh-in method. Indoor temps should be somewhat stable. Add a bit to my script here. If you're installing new equipment, because of a failure, the home's probably not going to be within the 70, 80 degree range. At this point, if you're not going to return, use best practices. You may have to return just to assure good operation. But you can't go wrong with the weigh-in method. All right, the subcool superheat charts. Remember, you're shooting for the subcooling on this. Once the home is stable, you can go back and look at the superheat if needed and make adjustments. But the critical thing here is the subcooling. All right, when you force the system to high speed while in cooling, the display should show the frequency on this chart. If it doesn't, you may be limiting itself because of poor airflow. After 20 minutes, the 5-ton doesn't say 62. It probably has a CFM issue. After 20 minutes, you can check subcool. It takes at least 5 minutes between adjustments to look at subcooling again. Remember, the unit in the opposition is going to show the outdoor temperature, but when running, it's going to display the frequency as long as there's no errors. And here's a little math for you if you want to look at your BTU output. Remember, a dirty filter blocking airflow is going to limit your CFM and limit your BTUs. All right, let's look at the switches. SW4, switch 1 and 2 do nothing at this time. SW4 switch is in the off position. Turning it on will accelerate cooling and enhance humidity removal. It also gives the heating a higher coil temperature. Most of the slides you're going to see with Bosch are going to show the cooling going from 47 to 37. Heating going from 108 to 116. In all actuality, when you're working on it, it's running on an algorithm. So you'll see a change instead of going to 37, a change in about 4-degree drop. After a long enough period of time, you'll increase that drop, getting closer to the 37. SW43, adaptive capacity. Best way to describe this is the condenser temperature is allowed to change and attempt to get better run times. This will give you different frequencies or ramp profile. A good time ending to throw this out. The thermostat must be set for 1 cycle per hour. If you've installed a Bosch inverter and have not done so, that's going to give it erratic operation. Remember, 1 cycle per hour. Those of you using the Bosch thermostat, that's 3,600 seconds in the Bosch world. Not having 1 cycle will affect the operation. The unit's learning how fast the home recovers the changes and making adjustments on the board. If you're zoning or using a lot of setback features, you might get poor results. You might want to move your switch to the on position, disabling this feature. Many reasons the unit will go on the defrost. It's monitoring all kinds of items. The coil temp getting low enough for a period of time is one of them. Coil temp is also used to terminate defrost cycle. Also, 8 minutes have passed will terminate the defrost cycle. The defrost switches SW51, SW52, both are on default off position. If you want a more aggressive, SW5-1 would reduce the runtime to the defrost by 10%. SW52 extends the longest defrost cycle by 60 seconds. You can force the defrost after 8 minutes of running in heat pump mode. You can hold the force button in for 6 seconds while the unit is running. Wait 40 seconds and DF will appear on the screen. If you still haven't de-iced the coil, a second defrost can be done after 5 minutes. Alright, the solitary switch is for capacity reduction. It's the only switch on the panel that defaults in the on position. In the on position, the 3-ton gives you the full 3 and a 5 the full 5. Moving to the off position will change the 3 to a 2-ton and the 5 to a 4. If you know your load should not exceed a certain BTU, you can move the switch to the off position. Remember, even if you're set at 3-ton running, 860 CFM is only going to be a 2-ton unit. This portion of the book's worth mentioning. The unit will shut off if an outdoor coil reaches 143 degrees or ambient temperature is below 15 or above 125 in cooling, and below -4 and above 86 in heating. At -4, the heat pump does shut down, but it will energize the W, feeding back in for the backup heating system. The high pressure switch opens at 580 psi and a low pressure below 43 over a 5-minute period of time. Unit has the listed fault codes on the panel and the installation manual. In the installation manual, it reviews each code and the resolution. The unit will display ambient temperature or, when running, the running frequency. But the check button can be pressed for 1 second to display a parameter table. Push the check button again to display the next parameter. Example would be pushing the check button 1 second and releasing it, and pushing it for 1 second again, it will display a parameter 1. A 0 would be a no call, a 2 would be a cool call, and a 3 would be a heat call. 24 items are available, including target temperatures, actual temperatures, pressures, current, voltage, fault codes, etc. System protection codes will also be displayed. It may not shut the system down, but it may limit operation. And a few things to remember, worth repeating: your BT output is set by your CFM. The multi-speed blower can be used. Outdoor system will function as a multi-speed inverter based on the indoor CFM. A non-proprietary thermostat can be used. The only requirement is a functional B terminal to operate in the heat pump mode. If all you have is an O terminal, we can use a relay and switch that to the B. Cycle rate of a thermostat must be set to 1 cycle per hour. Your cooling will function to 15 and your heat pump functions to -4. A -4 acts as a changeover temperature and will energize the W. If using an existing or competitor's evap, it must be a TXV. That's a heat pump and non-bleed port. And again, I said I would not mention it. Nitrogen when brazing, never soft solder. Do a leak test, triple evac. Use a liquid line dryer, 150 foot max line set. You're pre-charged to 15 foot. Add 0.6 ounces per foot. You can calculate your total BTU by your hertz. Go back to the slide, make note of it, take a picture of it. You know exactly how many BTUs you're producing at the outdoor unit. And if having issues with defrost, you have 2 switches available. They ship in the off position. You can make them on to make a more aggressive defrost cycle. Now, we thank you very much for taking the time to review the Bosch video. Any questions, please let us know, and we look forward to working with you.